Hey guys, how's it going? I just finished watching Battle of Gods again, and I just had an epiphany. Not only do I think is Battle of Gods one of the best Dragon Ball movies, but also I think it's probably the best Dragon Ball movie. So, one thing I noticed is that a lot of people, they either don't like Battle of Gods or they don't properly understand the movie. So, after I rewatched the movie, there are a lot of things that I caught but didn't catch before, or that I didn't properly analyze. So there's a few things I want to point out in this video. I saw Hail Zeon and Geekdom 101's video on Dragon Ball GT where they essentially brought up the fact that Toriyama likes to bring out villains out of nowhere, whereas in GT they have villains that come out of previous concepts. Well, that might be true, but you can't deny that Beerus' character is still a lot better than a lot of the ones in GT. The only ones that can really compete with him are Baby, and even then, I personally find Beerus way more interesting than Baby. Baby still seemed like your generic villain who just used revenge as a way of justifying trying to, take revenge against the Saiyans. But anyway, I felt that him being asleep, even though it did come out of nowhere, it still kind of made sense, and it's not really contradicted by anything earlier. Because, it's not like, well, aside from, Elder Kai saying that he was sealed in the Z sword by a villain, but not somebody as powerful as Boo, but later on he says that he was sealed by Beerus. Obviously, Beerus is way stronger than Boo. But other than that, I don't really see anything that really contradicts Beerus being there to begin with. And, Toriyama does obviously try to address that. And he obviously says that, Beerus was asleep the whole time, so I'm sure even he knew that he had to address that in some way. So another thing is the characters act as they should, which is something that's very important because I think that in GT, they didn't do that as much. I mean, sometimes they did, but other times they didn't. And, I mean, a lot of people might say that they did, but whenever I watched GT, I didn't get that impression that they acted completely the way that they should. Because, I mean, I don't know, like, whenever I watched it, there was just something off about them. And, now, years later, I now know why. Is that Toriyama didn't have much involvement in it, so it didn't have his personal touch. Or the magic of Toriyama, if you want to put it that way. And even though the movie had minimal action, I still think that it was still balanced fairly well. I mean, there could have been more action, but the action that was in the movie was needed and very much did help the movie, keep it interesting. And of course, the movie was also very funny. I especially liked a lot of the deleted scenes, like the rock, paper, scissors match, especially when Yamcha made the suggestion to, go with the rock, and essentially he almost doomed the planet. Way to go, Yamcha. But seriously, I also liked how, well, this was probably just in the English dub, but it was still funny nonetheless when Beerus said, when Beerus called Wasabi, the demon paste. That was really funny. And to me, so far, that's still way funnier than anything I've seen in Super. But, I'll get to my thoughts on Super in a later video. Also, one thing I noticed about the movie is that the pacing is really well done. Even if you compare it to a lot of the older Dragon Ball movies, the pacing is not just well done, but it's very well done. So, for example, one of the problems I think with a lot of the earlier Dragon Ball movies is that, much of the movie is build-up, and then, the build-up doesn't amount to as much. I think this was the particular problem with the Broly movies. Say what you want to about the first Broly movie, I really liked it. And to me, the main problem with the Broly movie, well, one of the main problems, there are others, but one of the main problems with the Broly movie was the ending. Based on the way he was fighting Z Warriors and dominating them, you'd think that it would take a Super Saiyan 2 to beat him, or at least like a Spirit Bomb or something, but he was killed by a punch, like a mere punch by strengthened Super Saiyan 1. And not only that, but from the energy of a couple of weakened Saiyans and a weakened Namekian, nonetheless. I would say up to the ending, the pacing was decent, but that's where the movie really fell short. This movie, on the other hand, Battle of Gods, I actually think that the pacing is one of the better ones. And I say that because I didn't really feel that it was really rushed at certain points. Well, the theatrical version maybe, but if you watch the extended version, which I highly recommend that you do, I think that it didn't feel rushed at all. And I can see why they took out a lot of the scenes that they did, but the scenes that were took out, well, some of the scenes that were taken out, I actually think really helped to make the movie a lot better. And I'm thinking maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't get this much before, because, you know, I watched the theatrical version, I didn't watch the extended version as much. So when I watched the extended version, then I started to get why this movie's so good. But anyway, there are other points I have. So unlike Super, so far at least, I don't think this movie really pads. And especially if you look at the extended version, you know, the parts that they cut out, I don't think that it seems rushed or padded. And another thing I like about this movie is that Beerus was a unique enemy, unlike, you know, pretty much every other Dragon Ball movie villain, which is your generic bad guy. Like, they just want to destroy for the sake of destroying, or, you know, something of that nature. Beerus was merely the god of destruction. He wasn't evil, as they explain in the movie, but he was merely a being that just essentially destroys things on a whim. So it's not that he's evil. I mean, he's not good, but he's not evil either. So I really find that interesting. I definitely must say that Beerus, objectively, is probably I would say the best written movie villain so far, because of that objectivity. Because he's not, you know, the complete bad guy or whatever. I pretty much see him as like a very powerful, spoiled rich kid, you know. I'm sure other DBZ tubers have made note of that too, but, you know, that's just something I noticed as well. I noticed that the Super Saiyan God Legend, some people complain about that too, including Hail Zeon, and again, I don't really see how that contradicts anything. And it's even hinted that, you know, the evils, this was so long ago that the evil Saiyans were permeating. In other words, from what we knew before, they were only evil Saiyans. So we'd have to assume that this was so long ago that the evil Saiyans were permeating. And the only problem I see with this is the fact that only Shenron knew about this. And I'm talking about the movie. I'm not talking about the series, Dragon Ball Super, and that Namekian Book of Legends or whatever. I'm talking about the movie. As far as we're concerned, the movie, only Shenron knows about Super Saiyan God, and Beerus doesn't, even though Beerus should be way older than Shenron. Especially Whis should know about it, since he has that staff that tells him pretty much anything. Other than that, I felt that the Super Saiyan God Legend wasn't really contradicted, and I didn't think, I mean, really, like, he thought it made less sense than Bardock being sent back in time and becoming a Super Saiyan? Really? Nah, bruh. No. Not even close. Not even close. Anyway. I also felt that Goku going Super Saiyan God was also as long as it needed to be. In other words, one of the things I don't like about Super Episode 9 is that they stretched out the transformation to be way longer than it should have been. Now, some like it, some don't. I'm one of those that didn't. And it's not just that. I don't like any long transformation sequence. As a matter of fact, I wasn't that fond of Super Saiyan 3 because they dragged it out way too much. Also in the series, they dragged out the Perfect Cell transformation. I mean, what'd they drag it out, like an episode or episode and a half or something? I'm trying to remember. And I'm talking about Dragon Ball Z, not Kai. I haven't really seen Kai yet. I felt that the Super Saiyan God transformation was as long as it needed to be. You know, it wasn't as padded as... well, it didn't seem padded at all, let's put it that way. Another thing I like about this movie is that Goku actually gets character development. You can actually look back on all the other movies. Goku never, ever gets character development before this. Not once. Not even once. As a matter of fact, the only movie that I think any character gets character development, at least in DBZ, because it's been a while since I've seen the original Dragon Ball movies, but from what I remember of those, yeah, Goku definitely doesn't get character development. But the only characters that get character development, character development is Tapion from Wrath of the Dragon. And I'm not even going to try to say the Japanese name way too long. But aside from Tapion and Wrath of the Dragon, no other character, including Goku, gets character development in any other movie. This is the first one where he does, so that alone puts this like leagues above most of the others. And in case you're curious as to what the character development is actually Goku starting off being arrogant, as I made a video about, which I'll put in the description below, and also link to Geekdom's video where he also talks about Goku being overconfident and arrogant. But Goku starts off as being very confident, arrogant, and essentially underestimating Beerus when he's Super Saiyan 3. Then he gets beat down, for lack of a better term, and he becomes a Super Saiyan God, and he essentially almost fails to save the Earth. Well, then again, he kind of does because it's at Beerus' whim, basically. But Beerus forces Goku to admit that he lost, and this is character development because at the beginning of this story, he felt that he could beat him and that his power was enough. Now he realizes it isn't, and he sort of comes to accept the Super Saiyan God power. So if you actually watch the movie and you know how storytelling works, then you'd know that at least a couple of times throughout the movie they set up Goku's character development. I really got to give them props for that. I said before, you should especially watch the extended version, as it took me a while to appreciate this movie, but when I watched the extended version, I really started to, understand why this movie was a lot better than originally thought it was. I mean, I did watch the extended version before, but there's still a few things I didn't pick up on yet, but this time watching it through, I picked up on a lot more things. And this is just this watch through. Imagine how many more things I'd pick up on. And after rewatching this, I have to say that this probably is the best Dragon Ball movie that has ever been made. I mean, it's so good. Even the music in this movie was good. I mean, especially that flow track when Goku turned Super Saiyan. I mean, like when that was happening, like I was on the edge of my seat. I mean, I knew the outcome, but still, like it was that good. And then finally, I loved how they showed the manga at the end. Pretty much paying tribute to the long road that got Goku to the events of this movie. Ultimately, I just want to say that, I decided to make this video because ultimately I feel that Battle of Gods isn't as appreciated as it should be. Simply because, a lot of people probably don't understand a lot of the themes that have gone on in this movie, or they just overlook a lot of the interesting story elements in here. And, I've seen all of Hail Zeon's videos about Battle of Gods, and I get that he's upset about certain things, but, in my mind, they're not enough to discount this movie for being so good. And, I really feel that Battle of Gods is so much more than what a lot of people think it is. It's about Goku overcoming and on top of that, we even learn that Beerus isn't even the strongest being that's known. I mean, Whis is stronger than him, and on top of that, there are other universes. So if this movie wasn't good enough just by its own merit, it also sets up for future events. I mean, I don't really think there's much more to be said. And again, that was just this viewing. Imagine how many more things I might find in further viewings in the future. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope you guys give Battle of Gods a second chance if you don't like it, or if you do like it, but you feel that it isn't the best Dragon Ball movie, then perhaps you need to rewatch it. I mean, if you still don't think so, then that's fine. That's your opinion, but after rewatching this movie and after actually analyzing it a lot more than I have before, and after watching the extended version in particular, I really feel that a lot of the true beauty of this movie really has gone over people's heads. including some people in the community even. And I really think that a lot of people that don't like this movie really need to give it a second chance and look at particularly the extended version, but, you know, look at the whole picture. I know how this movie has its flaws, it has plot holes and whatnot, but, you know, if you can at least look past that and see a lot of the other things that this movie did right, particularly in comparison to the other movies, then you'll see that this is probably the best Dragon Ball movie that's ever been produced. If for no other reason than because it expands the universe, it has a lasting impact because, you know, it leads into revival of F, unlike any other Dragon Ball movie, which, well, I guess the Broly movies and the Cooler movies do, but in a way these are considered canon. Well, that's kind of hard to say at this point, but... And another thing this movie does is it actually gives Goku character development, which no other Dragon Ball movie has ever done. Pretty much only the series itself has done that. And even then, not in such a short period of time. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you guys think. See you guys later.